What's going on, guys, and welcome to a new video. We are here watching live the new PS5 reveal. It's so exciting. This is the one moment we've been waiting for, and I really cannot wait. We've got a minute and a half left apparently as they are setting up for the premiere of this video. And yeah, anyone that's as excited as me? Good. The last time this happened for like a console generation reveal video that I did was when the Xbox One came out, but obviously I changed to PlayStation midway through because I just missed PlayStation, if all fairness, and I don't think the Xbox One generation was as good, although it had some perks that PlayStation didn't have. But in terms of exclusives, PlayStation shined for exclusives. So this is why PlayStation hype is bigger than Xbox hype. Xbox is great, like the stuff, their new console looks very good, so much so that if this isn't as good as Xbox One, no, not Xbox One, Xbox Series X, then I would go Xbox Series X, because I actually would get that console if this console isn't as good. But if this console is better than Series X, well, you know what I mean. I would get the the PS4 5. Jesus, it's gonna be crazy. They actually have a PS5 to show us. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the talk that we had planned for GDC. But we do have some super exciting news about PS5. And who better to bring that to you than the one and only Mark Cerny. Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jim.
So that makes sense. That's why they left it for so long.
Lots of chances later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games. Today, I want to talk a bit about our goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware and how they influenced the development of the console. I think you all know I'm a big believer in console generations. Once every 5 or 6 or 7 years, a console arrives with substantially new capabilities. There's a lot of learning by the game developers, hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before. Now, it used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for.
Oh, the fact that they still are saying that.
A different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles. The first of these is listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot of what we put into a console derives directly from the needs and aspirations of the game creators. We definitely do have some ideas of our own, but at the core of our philosophy for designing consoles is that game players are here.
I'm drinking a lot of water because I got a bit of a...
that game creators matter.
Whenever I drink coffee, it doesn't agree with my throat, so I'm just...
help them realize their dreams.
Every time.
So, about once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various...
I was almost going to say I got a bit of a cold. I don't have a cold, don't worry.
What they're doing with the current consoles and what they'd like to see in future consoles. This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves talking to well over 100 people at something like 24 publishers and developers. And it is incredibly valuable. By the way, the feature most requested by the developers, that was an SSD, which we were very happy to put in the hardware, but a lot of problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later.
How long is this video going to be? That's what I'm curious about.
It's also key to make a generational leap while keeping the console sufficiently familiar to game developers. I think about this in terms of balancing evolution and revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2...
The more info, the better. That's what I'm saying. The longer the video, the better.
Brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got longer with each console. In the past, I've called this time to triangle. Here's what I had for those 3 consoles. To be clear, I'm not talking about time to make a game. Developers will be ambitious, and it may take them 6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development are up and running, and trying to minimize that. On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to 0, that means the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it. So with PlayStation 4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance between performance and familiarity. We got required learning.
It took 1 to 2 months.
With
Wow.
PS5, the GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model. Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something under a month of getting up to speed. That feels like we're
Whoa.
striking about the right balance. I'll go into a bit more detail later today about our philosophy with the GPU and the specific feature set that resulted from it. It's also very important for us, as the hardware team, to find new dreams, by which I mean
So it could
something
take under a
other than
month just
CPU
to
performance, GPU performance,
get a
amount
game
of
to
RAM.
run or something like
The
that?
increase in graphics
From the
performance
developer's
over the past 2 decades has been
perspective?
astonishing, but there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to the game creators and through them, the players. That's why
That's
SSD was very
going
much
to
on
speed
our
up
list of
development
features
for a lot of
regardless
games,
of what came out
which
of the
could
conversations
mean
with game
that
developers and publishers.
allows game
The
developers
biggest
to
feature in this
produce
category is the
higher
custom
quality
engine for
games,
audio.
which
That's
is
today's
great.
final topic. The push for vastly improved audio. And
That's what we want for a next-gen
3D audio
console.
Isn't something that came out of developer meetings. It's much more the case that we had a dream
More
of
so
what
for
might be possible
PlayStation.
5 years from now, and then worked out a number of steps we could take to set
That's
on that path.
going to be interesting.
So here again are the 3 principles. The first being enabling the desires of developers to drive the hardware.
It's good they're talking about developers
Maybe
first,
SSD
because
really is the key to the next generation.
as well as
Press
us
it
people
or give it
buying the games,
and it was the #1
developers,
ask
developers,
for PlayStation
developers,
5. As in,
they-
we know it's probably
they are
impossible.
talking to the
Can we
people
put an SSD in it?
that are making the games for the
That was a
console
discussion we were also having internally.
to get
It was
investors
clear that the presence
invested.
of a hard drive on the PlayStation 4 was having a positive impact. A lot of things that would simply have been
Which does
impossible
us, the
at Blu-ray
consumer,
disc speeds were
much
now
better
possible. At
in the long
same
run.
time, though, in 2015 and 2016, when we were having these conversations, developers were already banging up against the limits of the hard drive.
So
And a lot
don't take any of
development
this
time was being spent designing
stuff
around
for
low
granted.
load
This
speeds.
is some really good stuff being said.
I want to focus in on just one number here, which is how long it takes to load a gigabyte of data from a hard drive. The difficulty being that hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible. If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second, depending on where the data is located on the hard drive.
So,
Let's assume it's on the outer edge, which
what's
means
it
loading
gonna
a
be
gigabyte
for
is down. If you
PS5?
compress your game
1
packages,
gigabyte
you can
divided by
fit
100
more data on the
megabytes.
Blu-ray disc and also effectively boost your hard drive read
Right.
speed by the
Okay.
compression ratio. We support zlib decompression on PlayStation 4 that gets you something like 50% more data on the disk and 50% higher effective read speed. Unfortunately, though, it's highly likely that your data is scattered around in various files on the hard drive, as well as sourced from multiple locations within those files. So lots of seeks are needed at 2 to 50-ish milliseconds each. My rule of thumb is that the hard drive is spending 2/3 of its time seeking and only 1/3 of its time actually loading data. Putting all of that together, a gigabyte is very roughly 20 seconds to load from a hard drive. Now,
Right.
a gigabyte is not much data. Games are using 5 or 6 gigabytes of RAM on PlayStation 4, so
It puts it in a
boot times and load
scenario,
times
though.
can get pretty grim.
So
Put
the
that
read
differently,
speed
as a player,
for,
wait
you
for
know,
the game
the
to
consoles we've been
load.
using for like
Wait
the
for the
past
game to
decade, whether it be PS4,
Wait for the level to
PS3,
reload every time you
360,
die,
Xbox
and you
One,
wait
you know.
for what is euphemistically
It's been
called
taking forever.
fast travel. And all of
So
that
what's
leads
it going to
dream.
be like when we
What
load
if
our
you could
games
have
on
not just an
PS5?
SSD, but a blindingly fast SSD? If we could
5
load
gigabytes
5
per
gigabytes a
second.
from it, what would change? Now, SSDs
What?
they don't have peaks.
That's
If you
that's
have a 5 gigabyte a
ridiculous.
second SSD, you can read data from
Oh my
1,000 different
God.
locations in that second, pretty much at speed. As for
Instantaneous.
time to load a gigabyte, this is next gen
What?
we're talking about. So memory is bigger.
5
Instead, we
gig
should be
per
asking
second.
How long to load 2 gigabytes? And the answer is about a quarter of a second. I mean, that's amazing. We're talking 2 orders of magnitude.
What the?
Meaning very roughly
That's
100
incredible.
times faster. Which means at 5 gigabytes a second for the SSD, the potential is that the game boots in a second. There are no load screens. The game just fades down while loading a half dozen gigabytes and fades back up again. Same for a
Goodbye
immediately
load
back in the
screens.
action after
They might still be there,
and
but not for
fast
long.
travel becomes so
Just
fast
like.
you blink and you miss it. Game creators are trying to distract the player from
Just-
how long fast
or maybe
travel
like.
takes, like those Spider-Man subway rides. to
Oh
being
my
so
god!
blindingly
Like this is
fast
your
that you
loading screen
might
for
even have to
PS4.
slow that transition down. Pretty cool, right? But for me, this is not the primary reason.
This
for
is
changing the
PS5.
hard drive to SSD.
It's
The
just.
primary reason
Oh my
for
god,
using
that's
fast
quick.
SSD is that it gives the game
That's so
designer
fast.
freedom. Or to put that differently, with
It's
a
a good thing they
hard
put
drive,
maths
it's
in to
20 seconds that it takes
explain
to
like
load
how
the
it
game
works.
and sabotage the game that the developer is trying to create. I think almost all of us in the room have experienced this, maybe in different ways. Say we're making an adventure game and we have 2 rich environments where we each want enough textures and models to fill memory, which you can do as long as you have a long staircase or elevator ride or a windy corridor where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30 seconds or so to load the new assets. Having a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically, we'd probably chop the world into a number of smaller pieces and then do some calculations with sight lines and run speeds like we did for Haven City when we were making Jack 2. The game is 20 years old, but not much has changed since then. All those twisty passages are there for a reason. There's a whole subset of level design dedicated to this sort of work, but still, it's a giant distraction for a team that just wants to make their game. So when I talked about the dream of an SSD, part of the reason for that 5 gigabyte a second target was to
That is so
eliminate
quick.
noise, but also part of the reason for
I'm
that
gonna look
target
up now
was
how fast per
as
second the Xbox
what
One
if
is,
the
and the
SSD
Xbox
is
Series
so
X. Sorry.
fast that as the player is turning around, it's possible to load textures for everything behind the player in that split second. If you figure that it takes half a second to turn, that's 4 gigabytes of compressed data you can load. That sounds about right for next gen. Anyway, back to the hard drive. Another strategy for increasing effective read speed is to make big sequential chunks of data. For example, we might group all the data together for each city block. That removes most of the seeks, and the streaming gets faster. But there's a downside too, which is that frequently used data is included in many chunks and therefore is on the hard drive many, many times. Marvel's Spider-Man uses this strategy, and though it works very well for increasing the streaming speed, there's a massive duplication as a result. Some of the objects like mailboxes or news racks are on the hard drive 400 times. What I'm describing here are things that cramp a creative director's style. Either level design gets a little bit boring in places, or the data is duplicated so many times that it no longer fits on the Blu-ray disc. And you end up with hard limits on the player's run speed or driving speed. The player can't go faster than the load speed from the hard drive. And finally, I'm sure many of you have noticed that after
It's
a
already
download,
saying for the SSD speeds, because I was reading through some,
that's because when just part
and I
of
think
the
it
file
showed for
the new
graphic
data can
speeds
be
and
downloaded very quickly.
audio
Before
speeds,
the
something like
game
that.
boots
I'm
up,
not too sure
a
what it
brand new
was,
file has to be constructed that
or
includes
RAM
the
speeds,
changed
but
file.
nothing for
Otherwise, every
SSD
change
speeds.
would
But
add
it's interesting.
Even so, you can occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough. With an SSD, though, no seeks, so no need to make brand new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means no installs as you know them today. There's yet one more benefit, which is that system memory can be used much more efficiently. On PlayStation 4, game data on the hard drive feels very distant and difficult to use. By the time you realize you need a piece of data, it's much too late to go out and load it. So system memory has to contain
Yeah, because
all
that's
of
where
the
you always
data
see the
needed for
ground.
next
Like when you
30
load a
seconds.
map, it's like
That means a lot
Pop,
of the
pop,
8
pop, pop, pop.
gigabytes of system memory
Like
is
the
idle.
the
It's just waiting
textures like
there
load,
to
pop, pop,
be
pop, pop, pop.
potentially
But if they're saying the next gen,
on PlayStation 5, though, the SSD is very close to being
so
like normal RAM. Typically, it's fast enough that when you realize you need a piece of data, you can just load it from the SSD.
GDDR6.
There's no need to
Wow.
have lots of data parked in system memory waiting to potentially be used. A different way of saying that is that most of RAM is working on the game's behalf. This is one of the reasons that 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 feels right for PlayStation 5. The presence of the SSD reduces the need for a massive intergenerational increase in size. So back to the dream of the SSD. Here's the set of targets. Boot the game in a second. No load screens. Design freedom, meaning no twisty passages or long corridors.
Ultra fast speed.
More game on the
No
disk,
load
more game
screens.
on the
Ultra high
SSD.
speed.
And finally,
Deduplicate
those
game
patch
data.
installs go away.
Wow.
The reality, though, is that the SSD
It's so
is just
quick.
one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of places where bottlenecks can occur in between the SSD and the game code that uses the data. You can see this on PlayStation 4. If I use an SSD with 10 times the speed of a standard hard drive, I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For PlayStation 5, our goal was not just that the SSD itself be 100 times faster. It was that game loads and streaming would be 100 times faster. So every single potential bottleneck needed to be addressed. And there are a lot of them. Let's look at check-in and what happens when its overhead gets
pretty
100 times
cool.
larger.
It's pretty
Conceptually,
cool.
check-in is a pretty simple process. Data is loaded into system memory from the hard drive or SSD. It's examined. A few values are tweaked to check it in, and then it's moved to its final location. At the SSD speeds we're talking about, that last part, moving the data, meaning copying it from one location to another, takes roughly an entire next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If all the overheads get
We're going to have
optimized,
Harvey joining
that will
us,
triple the
so
frame rate as soon as the player
we're going to
moves,
get our reaction
massive
together.
stream of data starts coming off the SSD. So to solve all of that, we built a lot of custom hardware.
Sorry about this,
including a
guys.
custom flash
Seen
controller
Discord
and a
popping
number of
up
custom
on your
units
screen.
in our main chip. The flash controller in the SSD was designed for smooth and bottleneck-free operation, but also with games in mind. For example, there are 6 levels of priority when reading from the SSD. Priority is very important. You can imagine the player heading into some new location.
Hello.
in the game, requesting a
What's up?
few gigabytes of texture.
Hello.
And while those textures
Bro,
are
have you
loaded,
watching this
an enemy
PS5
shot
reveal?
and has to speak
Nope,
a few
not
extra
interested.
words.
Really?
Multiple priority levels lets the audio for those
Dude, my
words be loaded.
PS5 days are long behind me.
On one side,
Oh,
that flash
really?
controller connects
Yeah,
to the
I already
actual
had the
flash drive
PS5 back in
storage. To
2013.
reach our bandwidth
I'm on the
target,
PS8 right now. I have
we
the
ended up with
PS8
a
beta
12
test
channel
kit in my room.
8 channels.
Whoa.
The
Oh, I'm
resulting
looking at the stream now. There's some nerd on a podium talking about custom
With the
flash
12-channel
controllers.
interface, the most natural size
Mate,
of
no
emergency
load
SSD
screens at all.
is 825
Bro, what?
gigabytes.
That's
The
a
key
game
question for us
changer.
was, is that enough? I mean,
Mate,
it's
fucking
increasing
load
now, but
screens
flash
are the
certainly doesn't come
worst.
cheap, and we have a
Bro, you know what's the worst?
responsibility for
Coronavirus.
the
Woo.
cost
Oh,
effectiveness
definitely.
with regards to what we put in the
Dude,
console.
it doesn't matter if there's no load
Ultimately, we
screens. There's
resolved
going to be
this
no
question
one
by
left
looking at
alive to
play patterns
see the
of a
no
broad
load
range
screens.
of gamers. We examined
There'll be no people left to care about load
over the course of
screens.
a weekend or a week or a month,
Everyone's gonna
and whether that set
die,
of
dude.
games ran properly on the SSD.
It's actually
We were
the end
able
of the
to
world.
establish that the friction caused by reinstalling
It's the end of the world as we know it.
and so we locked in
Bro, it's
on
just
that
the end of the world.
825 gigabyte size, while also preparing multiple strategies so that those who want more storage
It's like Shaun of the
will
Dead.
go through the details in a moment. Back to the flash controller.
Worse than Shaun
On
of
the
the
other
Dead,
side,
dude.
connects
There's
to
no
our main
food.
custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen
No
4.
toilet paper.
Yeah, true.
The main custom chip is a
no
pretty
petrol.
hefty unit dedicated to I/O.
There's
Before we
there's
talk about what
nothing,
that
dude.
does, let's
Is there no
Yesterday,
petrol?
My internet broke.
PlayStation
Oh,
5
that's even
is
worse.
the
Back,
best
yeah, that made it way
specification.
worse. But it
We
came
decided
back
to
online
use it
after an
again
hour.
on
Me and Andy
PlayStation
fixed
5,
it.
But on my 2017 tour of
Oh,
development, I
Kraken.
learned about
They got the rum out.
Kraken
They
from
really, they're
Kraken.
bringing out Kraken
It's
rum.
like zlib's smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms.
I've
but
got
about
loads
10%
of Kraken
better
rum in the
compression, which is
cupboard
pretty
actually.
big. That means 10% more games.
Got a load of Kraken rum on my desk.
Or on the
It's not a bad plan.
Kraken had only been out for a year, but it was already
Drink a load of Kraken rum and
half of the teams
forget about
Got the Kraken rum.
the deadly
Looking
disease.
pretty good.
Hustled and built a custom decompressor into the I/O unit.
Can you hear it
Capable
in the
of
mic?
5 gigabytes
Yeah, I can hear it.
Kraken format input data.
Shout out Kraken rum.
After decompression, that typically becomes 8 or
Fucking
9 gigabytes. But the
delicious.
unit itself is capable of
Really
allowing
good with a nice
extra
Coke or Pepsi, whatever your preference is.
if the data happen to compress particularly well. By the way, in terms of performance, that custom decompressor
Crystal
was
Pepsi.
9
Uh,
bars and 2 bars. That's what it would
Crystal
take to
meth
compress
Pepsi.
the Kraken's
Crystal
conventions.
The
There's
best.
a lot
Pepsi.
more in the custom.
Dude,
Oh.
what's happening?
Including a
Hashtag Hello
dedicated
Winch.
DNO controller. The game
Hello
will direct
Winch
exactly
hashtag.
where and
Well.
how to send the data comes.
Cause shit
This
has
equates to
gone
another
down
Zen 2
in general.
in terms of its
They're saying now because
It's going down in general, dude. It's a pretty bad
There's
month.
2 dedicated I/O
they're saying that we have to record films either through our phones or our own cameras instead of the uni
One
equipment.
of the coprocessors is dedicated to SSD.
Yeah, my
This lets us bypass
pretty much
traditional
locked down.
I/O and its bottlenecks when reading from the
And
the campus is
The
still
others
open, but
responsible
you
for
can't
memory
really
mapping,
do
which
anything. It's
I
kind
know
of all
doesn't
shut.
sound like anything related to
yeah,
SSD,
I think the
but
shops
a
are
lot
still
of
open, but they're like use your cards,
memory as
debit
part of
cards
the
only,
I/O,
or
and
contactless.
this too can become a bottleneck.
That's smart. It's a good idea.
There are coherency engines to assist the
Guess what though, my work is still open, only drive-through
It's
only, so I
probably
can still get
the biggest
money.
issue is stale data
Oh,
in the
shit.
GPU caches. Flushing
that
all of
makes
the
sense,
GPU caches
actually.
whenever
They've
there's
ripped all the
data
seats out apparently, and
is
you
an
have to
unattractive
stand in a
because
certain
it really
spots
hurts the
when
GPU
you're
performance.
going to
So
get your food
we've
up front.
implemented a gentler way of doing things, where
That's
the
weird.
coherency engines
And like you have to stand a feet or two behind each other.
Yeah, that's just that's like the general rule. You gotta stay a
The
foot
best
or
thing
two
is, as a
apart
game
from each
developer,
other.
when you read from the SSD, you don't need to know any of this.
Bro, I
You
got
don't
something
even
kind
need
of
to know that your data
interesting.
is compressed. You
When I
just
went into uni
indicate
today
what
for
data you'd
last
like to
time,
read from your original
uh,
uncompressed file,
it was
and
to
where
do
you'd like to
my
put it,
group
and the whole
project
process of
presentation
uploading it
because we're halfway
happens
through now, so
invisibly
we got
to
to
you
present what we've
and at
done.
very high speed.
Yeah.
Back to the dream.
Basically,
all of that
we
surrounding
were
library,
doing it.
our 5.5
They
gigabytes
changed it
of
from
really should
in person
translate
face
to
to
something
face
like
to
100
online through
times
Microsoft
faster I/O than
Teams.
PS4.
Alright.
Allow the dream
And,
no load screens and streaming.
Our group still met up. Like the group still met up because we wanted to sort of present them as a group because it's just
Flash
easier.
is costly, and you may very
But
well
we were
want
all in
storage
different
to be heavily
rooms
filled.
doing it over the Teams. And the guys in the next room, their group, one of them, we genuinely think has coronavirus.
Oh really? Wait, in your dorms?
In my dorms?
Wait, not dorms. Like no, sorry, you're not in halls anymore. Your house.
No, not my house. In the classroom. He was in the next classroom over from us.
Ah shit.
Presenting. He looked dead. He was like coughing a lot, and apparently he said he's got a high. He's got a sore throat
Yeah.
and a high fever, which are all the symptoms of the virus. So
What
I
was
don't know
he still
why the
doing,
fuck
though?
he even. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the fuck he was doing coming in. He was supposed to stay at home. The rules are if you've got any of the symptoms, you have to stay at home. But he
For a
still
week.
came in anyway.
So they can take full
So I don't know why the fuck he came in. Because
He's a fucking donkey.
He is an idiot for coming in like that. Because there was like 5 people in his group, so he's probably infected the rest of his group now on the final day. Because he's coming, he's probably infected them.
You're not infected, are you?
I didn't have any contact with him, and I feel fine.
Cool.
So I should be alright. I reckon I won't. I don't know. I thought I might have got infected at the beginning because one of the guys in our house, Ben,
Yeah.
is very unhygienic and never washes his hands, and he smokes a lot, so he's probably he's quite vulnerable to catching it. And because he never washes his hands, I thought me and Big were saying if he gets it, we're all gonna get it. Like the rest of us in the house are all gonna get it. But luckily he fucked off back home last week.
Oh,
So,
that's alright then.
Having said that,
Because I mean, dude, this guy is a slob. Like he doesn't even wash his hands after he's taken a shit. But you know how a lot of guys don't wash their hands after they've had a piss, which is gross enough.
I know, I see that so often. I always wash my hands. 20-second rule, yeah?
So do I. This guy doesn't even wash his hands after he's had a shit.
What the fuck?
He's a fucking slob. Literally, I can hear him in the bathroom. The toilet goes, and then the door just goes, and he comes out. He doesn't wash his hands.
Oh.
That is rank. And his room is disgusting. It smells and it's messy. There's like bin bags overflowing in there.
That guy's gonna get corona.
He's a fucking gross guy. He's just very unhygienic in general. And it's quite funny, like we got into a big fight the other day. It's a bit of banter.
Right now we're getting M2 drive samples and
This is really off subject, but with this whole PS5 reveal, why are they getting so nerdy into it?
Oh, because they know the Xbox is better.
Particular M2 drives isn't too foreign for the games to handle.
Because the Xbox did their spec reveal and it's like,
we should be able to start,
you know, unbeatable. So they're just trying to be like proper nerdy.
Yeah, because if the PS5 is underpowered to the Xbox Series X, what's the point of getting a PS5? I'd rather get the Series X.
Exactly. That's why they're speaking nerd talk. So people that don't know what it means, they go like, well, I guess it's good then.
This was definitely a recurring theme with the GPU.
And you have also got to remember that a lot of the people watching these will be developers that will know exactly what.
Yeah, they're doing this because obviously E3 was cancelled and they're not doing like press talk or share. Like they're not doing, because at E3s they always talk to their shareholders, don't they? And the people that investors. So this is basically for investment. Like this is what you're investing in. Have a look at all these features. So I think it's not only just like a video for customers, but also the developers and investors.
Yeah, this is probably more aimed at devs. Looking at what they're going to be working with for the next 5 years.
Now, backwards compatibility was
or 10 years for all we know. I mean,
it'll be about 5, won't
it?
As our solution to adding new features without
until like there's like a pro model or something like that.
There were new significant features, it would be optional.
I don't think there needs to be a pro model for the Series X unless they can do it. But it's the Series X is so powerful.
Yeah, they do look very good.
Would you rather get the Series X over like a PS5?
Before I get into the capabilities,
well, I'm not a good person to ask that to, because when I've had an Xbox, I've always had an Xbox.
Oh yeah, true.
Choose Xbox because it's what I know.
Halo, backwards compatible with Xbox 360, Xbox One.
Yeah, I'll always go for the Xbox.
To reduce power
the sex box, the gay station.
It's so bizarre because like the PS4 generation did better than the Xbox One generation, but now it might be the Xbox Series X takes over the PS5.
So collaboration is born. If we bring concepts to AMD,
well, either way they're going to sell loads.
Then they can be adopted into RDNA.
It's going to be a very confusing generation. It'll be like the 360 days all over again, probably.
Like the GPU cache scrubbers I was talking about. Then
who knows?
Being just for us.
I don't really care about that stuff anymore, because I'm looking at it now from more of a developer's point of view, because I'm doing a lot more programming.
Oh yeah.
And I'm doing specifically video games programming for my unit. So I'm kind of looking at it like that, and I'm not really. I'm just sort of looking at it how the hardware works and like how it deals with memory and stuff, and how you program on them, rather than like.
So Series X looking better for that perspective already.
Well, I haven't looked into these consoles a shit ton, but from what I've read, it does look pretty sick.
People have been saying it's faster than, you know, and a very expensive PC.
Yeah, probably.
Much larger over time. Adding new features.
Probably, because it's basically using PC hardware. I mean, it looks like a PC. It literally looks like a computer.
Yeah, the Xbox does. I haven't even seen the design for the PS5 yet.
Second, the PlayStation 5
I don't think they've shown it.
I don't think they're going to show it in this reveal, you know. I'm getting that feeling.
One way you can achieve backwards compatibility is to put the previous console's chipset.
Oh god, the death toll has reached 104.
That's of course extremely expensive.
In the UK.
Another way is to incorporate any differences in the previous console's logic into
Let me guess, underlying health conditions.
meaning that even
Well,
as
they're the people that die from
evolves,
it.
the logic and
Literally.
concept that PlayStation
But that
4
is a
and
very
PlayStation 4
selfish
Pro
way of looking
titles
at it, so
rely
we
on
shouldn't
is still
look at it that
available
way.
in backwards
Yeah.
compatibility modes.
That's true.
One advantage of this strategy is that once backwards
Because me and
compatibility
you
is
won't
in the
die from
console,
it.
it's in.
Like the
It's
chances
not
are
as if
basically
a cost
impossible,
down
but
will remove
it's not
backwards
fair to look at
compatibility like it
to
did
think
on
like, oh, we're not going to
PlayStation
die.
3.
Who cares?
No,
There's
because
a
we
lot
should
of
still be
goals
indoors
years
either way.
Yeah.
by AMD. As
Like, you
any
don't want to catch
roadmap
it and then give it to your
advancement creates
granddad and your
potential
granddad.
Well,
for
my
RGB
stepdad has asthma, so
running PS4
Yeah,
and
your
PS4 titles
stepdad,
at boosted frequencies
any
has
kind of
also
health
added
condition like
complexity.
that
The
makes you
boost
more
is
likely to die
truly
from it.
massive this time
Just
around,
because me and
some
you are
game
fine
code just can't handle
doesn't
it.
mean
Testing
we
has to
shouldn't be
done
taking it
on a
seriously
title
like we
by title
should.
basis.
'Cause
Yeah.
we don't want to infect other
Results are
people that
excellent,
have
though. We recently took a
worse
look at
health
the top
than us.
100 PlayStation 4 titles as ranked by PlayStation,
absolutely.
and we're expecting almost all
What
of
I
them to be
find
playable
surprising
at
is how
launch
little
on the
people in
PlayStation
the UK have been infected compared to the rest of
With regards to
Europe
new features,
and
as I
like
said,
America
our
and stuff.
strategy was to try
It
to
is
make
rising
it
though.
rare, but at the same time not to
Yeah, but it's still
require
rising
use of
everywhere
the
else.
new
Like,
GPU
look.
capabilities. For more than a decade, GPUs
Alright,
have
Italy,
imposed a restriction on
31,500 infections.
software handles
True.
image processing,
Spain,
but for the most part,
14,000.
dedicated hardware is responsible
Germany,
for the
11,000.
triangles and other geometry
South
that
Korea,
vertices form.
8.5
That
thousand.
means
France,
it's not possible to do
7.7
even
thousand.
basic optimizations,
USA,
such as
7.5
aborting
thousand.
processing of a vertex
UK,
if all geometry that
2.6
uses it
thousand.
is off.
Oh, that's really low.
Yeah,
PlayStation 5 has
we've
a new
seemed to
unit
have,
called
unless it's
Geometry
cases that
Engine,
aren't being
which brings
reported.
handling of triangles and
So
other
that
frameworks
could be a
under full
possibility. But
programmatic control.
if those numbers
As a
are
game
true, we've
developer,
done
you're
way
free to
better than
ignore
the
its
rest of the world
existence
has.
and use the PlayStation
But
5 GPU as
you
if
can
it
look
were
at it
no
a
more
bad
powerful
way
than
is
a
the amount
PS4
of
GPU.
deaths we have
Or
compared to
you can
infection
use this
cases
new
are a lot
intelligence in
higher.
various ways.
Like Germany,
Simple
11,000
usage could be
cases,
performance
30
optimization,
deaths.
such as removing
UK,
backface
2.6
or
thousand
off-screen
cases,
vertices
70
and
deaths.
triangles. More
It's probably a lot more
complex
people in the
also
UK,
handle
probably.
primitive shaders, which allow the game to
But
Well,
that would be
synthesize
because
per-
NHS.
as it's being
Well, that's
rendered.
because
It's a
that's
brand new
like
capability.
per
Using
100,000,
primitive shaders on
so, like,
PlayStation 5 will allow
per
for a broad
person,
variety of techniques,
we have less
including
disease, if that
smoothly
makes sense.
varying
But
level
per
of detail,
person, more of
addition
our
of
people are
procedural
dying
detail
from
to
it.
close-up
Mm.
objects, and improvements to
So we're getting
particle
less
effects and other
cases,
visual
but more
special
deaths.
effects. Another major new feature of our custom
Which is a
RDNA
bit
2-based
dodge.
GPU is ray tracing, using
Oh.
the same strategy
Probably
as
meaning
AMD's
that, like,
upcoming
yeah, the
PC
NHS is
GPUs.
kind of
The CUs
overstrained
contain a new
with
specialized
the amount of
unit called
cases
the
that are coming in,
intersection
and it
engine,
can't deal with
which can
them all
calculate
at
the
once.
intersection of rays
Mm.
with boxes and
They got into the ray
To use the
tracing
intersection engine,
taught now.
first you build what is called
I don't know
a
why, but yeah, ray tracing is
Daylight
cool, but
RAM
it just,
contains
to this
all of the
point,
geometry.
still, I just think
There's a
it's
specific set of
such a
formats
minor
used for
thing.
variations on the same BVH concept. Then,
Like, ray
using
tracing
that,
is,
you use a new
it looks cool,
expression
but
that
what
asks
about
the
added
intersection
detail,
engine
you know,
to
what I mean, like, more detail than what we already have on the current
While the
gens?
intersection engine is processing the request
'Cause,
or ray box intersections, the shaders are
having,
free to do other work.
I
Having
don't know,
said that,
seen every
ray
spec
tracing
and every
instruction is pretty memory intensive, so
little
it's
bit
always
of
met
detail,
with
like,
marginal headwind.
you can see dust,
There's
or
of
you
course
could
no need to use
see,
ray tracing. PS4 graphics engines will run just fine on PlayStation.
oh, hold on, what do they talk about
But
now?
it presents
Yeah, that's
an
what ray
opportunity
tracing's
for
for,
less
mate.
interest.
It lets you get more
I'm thinking
detail with a
it'll
more
take less than a million rays
realistic
a second to
lighting,
have a big
like
impact on
ray
audio. That should be enough for
Yeah.
audio occlusion and
computational
some pretty good
algorithms. It lets you see
With a bit
more,
more of the GPU
and it
invested in
just
ray
makes it
tracing,
look
it
nicer.
should be possible to do some very nice global.
Like, you could design, you could have like a
Having
really
said that,
dense
adding ray traced shadows and
surface with a
reflections
lot
to
of
traditional
detail in, but if
graphics
your
engine
lighting
could easily
system
take
and your rendering
hundreds of
system
millions of
sucks,
rays
it's
a
still going to
second,
look like
and
shit.
full ray tracing could take billions.
Yeah, that's true, I
How far can
suppose.
we
You
go?
have like a
I'm starting to
fucking
get quite bullish.
fancy
I've
ray
already seen a
tracing
PlayStation
system. It's
5
going to
title that's
unlock the
successfully
full
using ray
potential
tracing-based
like
reflections
of the
in
graphics.
complex
With the animation software you use, have they introduced ray tracing to that at your uni, or?
Yeah,
How
we've
big do we make the
we've been
GPU,
working with some
and
ray
what frequency
tracing.
do we run it at?
My
This is a balancing
Candle
act. The
FX
chip has a
project,
cost,
I
and
use
there's a
ray
cost for
tracing
whatever
on.
we
and
use
it's
Oh,
to
shit.
supply that chip with power and
very
stability.
pretty.
In general, I like running the
I used a
GPU
ray
at higher
tracing
frequency. Let me show you
renderer called Arnold.
Here's
Oh.
two
Arnold.
configurations for a
Arnold
GPU roughly on the level
Schwarz.
of the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Arnold
This is a thought
Schwarzenegger.
experiment. Don't take these configurations too seriously. If you just calculate
See, I've
teraflops,
done a
you
little
get
bit
the
of ray
same number.
tracing. There was a unit
But
dedicated
actually,
to ray tracing, an
performance is
optional unit, but I
noticeably
didn't pick
different
it because
because
it was too much
teraflops is
math.
defined as the computational capability of the vector.
Okay, so that was the PS4's specs, I swear, because if that is the specs of the PS5, then it's shit. It's straight up shit.
At 33% higher
Because the Xbox Series X has 12 teraflops.
Processing the command buffer goes that much faster. The L2 and
So if the PS5 has 4.6 teraflops, that's no different to the PS4 Pro.
That system memory is 33% further away.
Honest, they are talking about the PS4 Pro.
But the large number of benefits more than counterbalance that. As a friend of mine says, a rising tide lifts
Also,
all
keep in mind that a teraflop doesn't
Also,
really
it's
mean
easier to
anything.
fully
It's
use
just like
36
a
CUs in
general
parallel
term to
than
say
it is to
kind of
fully
roughly
use
how
48
powerful
CUs.
it is.
When trying
Mm.
to
A
use
teraflop
small,
isn't
it's
something
much
you can
harder to
like
fill all those
make
CUs
use
with
of.
useful work.
Still,
there's a
numbers
lot
at the end of the day. If Xbox has higher numbers than PS5, then it's clearly the winner.
Which, frankly,
Well, no,
we
it's
haven't
not, because
always done
that's
the
how
best
that's
job
the
of.
whole Sony
Part of
versus
the
Canon
reason for
thing.
that is, historically,
Yeah,
our
true.
process for setting
Sony
CPU
has
and
higher
GPU
numbers in
frequencies has
Canon,
relied
but
on some
Canon's
heavy
still more
guesswork with
popular.
regards to
The
how
image
much
is nicer
electrical
and the
power
cameras are
games will
nicer to
consume,
use.
and how much
I
heat
suppose,
gains
and
will
PS4,
result
the
in
PlayStation
some
have better exclusives, technically
Power consumption
speaking.
varies
So
a
it's all
lot
about
from
software,
time to time.
really.
When I play
Yeah,
God
the
of War
software
on
running
PS4
on the
Pro,
system
I
is
know the power
just as
consumption is high
important as
just by the
the
fan
hardware
noise.
itself.
But power isn't simply about engine quality.
And that's
It's
stuff
about the
that
minutiae
you
of what's
can't
being displayed.
put a number on the screen.
It's counterintuitive.
You just gotta
but
like see what's
processing
better
dense geometry
with your
typically
own
consumes less
eyes.
power than processing simple geometry, which is, I suspect, why
What is
Horizon's
this?
mouse
what is this
low
graph?
triangle count makes
There's
my
an
PS4
axe. Are you
Pro
seeing this?
heat
There's
up
an
so much.
axe.
Yeah.
Our process
what
on
the
previous
fuck does
consoles
that
was
mean?
to try to guess what the maximum power
How does an
consumption of the
axe,
entire console
how does an axe,
which is to
like,
say, the
make it
worst
harder
case,
to process?
worst case game, and
I don't
compare
have the
a
sound
cooling
turned on as
solution
well,
that
by
we
the way,
think
so I don't know
will
what
be
he's
required
saying. I'm
at
just
that
like
power
looking
level.
at what's coming up on the screen.
If we get it right,
That doesn't make
fan
any
noise is
fucking
minimal.
sense.
If we get it wrong, the console
High
will
power
be quite
consumption,
loud for the higher
axe,
power
low
games,
power
and there's even a
consumption
chance that it might
of
overheat
racing
and
car.
shut down if we misestimate
I think you got them the wrong way round, mate.
I was gonna say, it should be the opposite way round.
Cars definitely use a lot more power than an axe.
There's more, like, reflections going on, there's more movement going on, there's more detail going on. Sound.
I'm just thinking in terms of real life, like, you know, a car burning petrol.
Oh, yeah.
More power than swinging an axe around.
So, after much discussion, we decided to go with a very different direction on PlayStation 5. We built a GPU with 36 CUs. Mind you, RDNA 2
Yeah, I've got to
CUs
fill out
are
some fucking
large. Each
forms
has
from
62% more
coronavirus.
transistors
I'll do it
than
later on the
CUs we
computer.
were using on PlayStation 4. So,
I've got to fill out those things like, you know,
36 RDNA 2 CUs
student
equates to
compensation
roughly
and
58
talking
PlayStation
about
4 CUs.
protests and
It is
shit.
a fairly sizable.
Wait, you can get compensation?
And we went with the
Well,
variable
not
frequency
necessarily,
strategy
but we
for
got to fill the
PlayStation 5,
form out to
which is
try and
say
get it.
we continuously
Oh, I wish our
increase
uni did that.
and CPU
But no,
use
do you know why? Because
apply
all the
adjacent
teachers
electrical
had
power,
their
and
fucking
then
strikes
increase the
before
frequency of
coronavirus
the
came out.
CPU
And guess
to
what?
reach the
Not only
capability
the
of
semester
the
sucked because we had strikes, but it sucks worse now because we have coronavirus.
rather than
Yeah,
We've
well,
had-
this is why you need
and
to,
letting power
to
vary
lead
based
it.
on the workload,
You as
we run at
students need to
essentially
come
constant
together
power
and
let the
complain
frequency
and like
vary based
make
on the
some
workload.
surveys and some like.
We
I
then
think we
tackled
did,
the challenge of a cost
went on the
effective
UK government
or
thing,
maintenance
and did the
designed
poll
specific
for, like, getting
workload. In
compensated.
some ways, it becomes a
Yeah,
simpler
because that's
problem
what we're
because there are
doing.
no
We're
more
looking
unknowns.
at
There's no need to
filling out
guess
some
what power
forms to
consumption
present
worst
to the
case game
university
might
to say
have.
like how are we gonna
As for the details
get
of the cooling
compensated for
solution,
this.
we're saving them for our teardown. I think you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team
I don't think we will because I think they're doing
So,
our classes
how fast
online, which
can we
is
run
fair
the
enough.
GPU
As
and
long as I can
CPU
do my
with this
classes, I'm
strategy?
happy.
The simplest approach would be to
Yeah,
look at the actual
I'm
temperature of the silicon
just
carbide
more,
frequency on that
because
basis.
I can't
But that
really
won't
work from
It
home.
fails to
I
create
have to make a
consistent
film.
PlayStation 5
Yeah, you're
experience.
fucked. I
It
can
wouldn't
work
do
from
to
home,
run
but you
console
can't.
slower simply because it was in a hot
I
room.
can do all my work
So
from home,
rather than
so
look at the
I'm happy
actual
if I get my
temperature of the
classes
silicon
online because I
we
can
look
do
at the
them, but
activities
you
that the
can't,
GPU
so
and
you've got to
CPU are performing, and
figure that shit out.
Yeah.
which makes everything
You got to figure out what the
deterministic
fuck's
and
going on and complain to your
While
uni.
we're at it, we also use
I can do all
AMD's
my
smart
stuff
chip
from home. I
technology
can
and
do my
send
group
any
project from
unused
home.
power
We
from the
have been
CPU
using
to the
Google
GPU
Teams and stuff.
so it can squeeze out a few
I
more
can do my
pixels.
programming from home. I've
Benefits
got all
of
the
this
software. That's
strategy
actually one
are
thing my uni's done
quite
that's
large.
sick is
Running a GPU
they've given
at
us
2
licenses
gigahertz
to all
was
the
looking like
software
an
that they use at the
unreachable
uni,
target
so
with
we
the
can
old
load
fixed
them on our
frequency
home
strategy.
computers.
With
Obviously,
this
I've
new
already got
paradigm-
them all pirated illegally on my computer, but
strategy. With
they're
this new
assuming we
paradigm,
don't, so
we're
they've
able to
given
run
out
way over
licenses
that.
so
In
we
fact,
can
have to
use all the
cap
software at
GPU
home.
frequency at 2.23 gigahertz
I'm
so that
looking
LCT,
at the
software
chat
system,
now,
operates.
and I think people are like
36
like
CPUs at
bored.
2.23 gigahertz is 10.3 teraflops, and we expect the GPU to spend most of its time
Yeah, of
at
course they are.
or close
People-
to that frequency.
People have
and
short
output.
attention spans.
Similarly, running the CPU at 3 gigahertz.
It's the kids that don't understand maths, basically.
Now we can run it as high as
Yeah,
3.5.
be 99%
In
of the
fact,
chat.
it
I
spends
bet
most of its
they
time
don't leave.
at
I
that
bet they
frequency.
still watch and complain that
That
it's
doesn't
boring.
mean all games will be running at 2.23 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz. When that worst case game arrives, it will run at a lower clock speed. But not too
Basically,
To
right?
reduce power by 10%
If the
will
game,
only take
if the
5
console has
seconds
good
to
content, that's all we
So I
care
don't expect
about. Can
any
you just
downtime.
show us the console, what it looks like,
All
and
things
then we can
considered,
go?
change to a variable frequency approach.
Because I'd rather them have bullet points of what specs they have rather than going in depth about it.
It's important
Like,
to
they could
find
release that on a
ways to
website or
find
something.
New ways to expand or deepen gaming.
I don't
That's
understand why they have to
what
talk about it on video.
As
It's
players
like
experiment with
watching
games,
someone's
the feedback
presentation in
is the
class,
feedback
but
we receive
it's
from
like a
the
fucking
pros,
hour-long
such as rumble or
presentation.
happiness. Personally, I feel a game is just dead
Yeah.
without audio.
Well, you got to do
Visuals
it.
are of
Yeah.
course important, but
Good.
the impact of
I
audio
suppose
is
they are
also
doing this
less.
because E3's cancelled.
At the same time, the audio team on a game project has to do a lot with a little.
But
For
no,
example,
they're
on
doing
PlayStation
this
4, there's
because
fierce competition for
the
Jaguar
fans are the
CPU.
last
Audio
priority. Like, they're not
typically ends up
important.
getting
Who's
just a
important
fraction
is the
of
game
core.
devs and the people
That's
that are going to
not
be
much of a
Yeah.
competitive resource,
making shit
particularly
for
when you
the
consider that
console.
visuals
They come
run at
first.
30 or 60 frames a
The
second,
people
but audio
buying
processing
games
needs to
aren't
happen
important
at
to these
almost
guys.
200
To be
frames
fair,
per second.
if PlayStation are trying to get developers'
So, it's been
interest
tough going making forward
and
progress in
Xbox is
audio
thinking about the
PlayStation 4,
consumers,
particularly when
PlayStation
3
could
was
technically
just
win
a
again.
when it came to audio. The SPU
Because,
itself
again,
were
more
almost
developers'
the perfect
interests,
device
the
for
better.
audio rendering. Simple
Yeah,
pipeline
but the
algorithms that
developers will be
really
looking
take
at
advantage of asynchronous
everything.
DNA
True.
and frequently reached 100% utilization of the floating point unit. There's unfortunately nothing comparable.
They'll
on
know
PlayStation
what
4.
the best
Probably
path
the
for
most
them will be.
dramatic progress in the PlayStation 4 generation.
Oh, they
has
talk
been
about
virtual
VR.
reality. The PSVR
Thing is
hardware has
VR
audio
still as popular?
It supports about 50 pretty decent 3D
Yeah, I
sound
think so.
sources.
There's
And
a
this
VR
provided a hint as to where we could go with
gaming
audio, as well as some
place in
valuable
Bournemouth.
experience.
Oh,
Not
Me and
to
Archie went and had a
oversimplify,
look. It's
but
actually
here
pretty
were our
fucking
goals
sick.
for
It's just a
audio on
giant
PlayStation 5.
room
The
with
first
loads of
goal
VR
was great
headsets
audio for
dangling
everyone,
from the ceiling
not
with
just
like little
VR
computers
users
at
or
the top.
soundbar owners or headphone users. That
Cool
meant
as
audio
fuck.
had to be part of the console. It couldn't be a peripheral.
VR's
The
awesome, by
second
the way.
goal was to support
Really cool.
hundreds of sound
I
sources.
suppose it's
We
just
didn't
if
want
you've got the
developers to
money
have to
and you
choose
play with it, you
what
actually
sound
realise how
get
good it
good
is.
effects and which wouldn't.
Yeah,
We wanted
Andy's got
every
VR
sound
and we
in the
played
game
on it,
to
and
have
it's
dimensionality.
fucking sick.
And finally, we wanted to really take on
Me, Charlie, and Reese have been playing the new
locality.
was it Warzone, Modern
Now,
Warfare? We
we need
fucking love
a
it.
feeling that you're
Oh
actually
yeah,
there.
we played a
You've
bit of that, and
entered
we
the
played a bit of the
matrix.
money
It's
one.
not, of course, something we thought we could perfectly achieve.
You
but
should join me,
we
Charlie, and
stopped
Reese. We could.
using just a
Oh wait,
radio
no shit. They don't have fucking
Instead,
quads out
live
yet.
3D audio sources for raindrops hitting the ground and
That's
also
annoying me.
versus
We need
rain.
quads.
Then at some
They got
point,
solos
your
now.
brain
We just
will
need
take a
quads.
leap and you begin to have this feeling. This
Oh,
feeling
is there
of
not
real
4
presence
people?
inside
No,
the
it's 3
world
people
of the game.
max.
This has the capacity
Oh.
to affect
Minimum
your
1.
appreciation of the game, just like music in a game does.
Yeah, I played some
The
of it.
concept of
I
locality
don't
is
like
simple.
battle
It's just your sense
royales,
of where the
but that
audio is coming
one's
from. To the right of you,
bearable.
behind you, above
Yeah,
you.
I think it's really fun when you play with the right people.
And it
And
can
like
also
playing with
direct
Charlie and
your
Reese, it was a lot of fun.
To use Dead Space as an
It's
example,
like GTA. You got to play with the right people,
you're
otherwise you
fighting enemies
probably
in
might not
fairly
enjoy it as
dark,
much.
spooky locations. Back in the day, if you played the game using the TV speakers, you could tell
I
that there was
just don't
one
like battle
last
royales
enemy
in general.
growling and hunting you down, but it was difficult to tell quite
I
where
don't
that
like the
enemy
format
was.
of them.
With headphones, you could tell that the enemy was somewhere on the right.
I preferred
Let you
the money
deduce,
game
if you
mode,
couldn't
but
see it, that it must be somewhere behind.
I wouldn't play it.
And
Are they talking about 3D audio
3D
now?
audio with good
There,
location.
they are.
The idea is, you know, the enemy is
Have you played the
precisely
money one?
there, and you
No.
take it, and you take it out.
Oh, we played one
So,
game and
how
we
do we
won,
know where
and then
sound
Oh.
is coming from
I'm
in the
done.
first place?
No, I don't like
Well,
things to be
all
that
those
easy.
bumps and folds in the ear have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking, based on what direction.
Oh, it
the
wasn't
sound is
easy,
coming
I just-
from,
we
sound
were
waves bounce
good.
around inside the ear.
Oh.
There's some constructive and destructive interference.
It's still
and
like,
the
you know,
result is a
200
change
people,
in
whatever
volume.
that you've got to beat. We just
The
won.
phase of the sound also shifts, depending on what.
I mean, we
path
won
the
our
sound
first
took
battle
to
royale
the
as
ear
well.
canal.
Oh.
These volume changes and
We played
phase shifts are
two battle
different for
royales. We
each
won the
direction
first
and
one and
also
came
vary
second.
Me and the lads haven't even won one yet.
Head size and head shape also impact.
We've had so many games, we've never won any of
The
them.
way that the sound changes based on direction and frequency can be.
Alright, does any of this, like, make sense to you?
I haven't got the sound
Here's
on, so
part
I
of
don't
it.
know what to
The
say.
vertical axis.
They're talking about 3D audio. I have no idea. Like, what? How you? What's the point of 3D audio? Is it just like stereo sound? No, not stereo. Surround sound.
No, they're probably talking
In fact,
about how,
you're
like,
looking at mine right now.
let's say how
Here's
you
how
can
we
place
measure NHRTF.
an
We've
object
taken
in
hundreds
3D.
of people
I'm
through
guessing,
this
by the way, I
process.
don't know.
We
But
put
let's
a
say how you can
microphone
place an
in the
object in
subject's
3D
left and
space.
right
They're
ear
probably
canals.
thinking like how
And
you
then
can place
sit the
sounds in
subject
3D
down in the
space
middle
as
of an
well.
array of
So they
26
sound more
speakers.
realistic. You
We
walk
then
around a
play an
room.
audio suite
Oh,
from
so
each
like, say,
sound as
depending
we
where
go through.
you're looking, if you're looking
Of course,
up or
10
down, left or
times
right,
the
you'll
rate
hear
of sound in
different
HRTF than
wind
the
speeds
sound
going at a different direction.
Using an HRTF
Yeah, that
for
kind
rendering
of stuff,
audio
probably.
creates unparalleled quality, but it's
So it's not just a
computationally
sound
expensive.
effect playing through both
simplest way to
speakers.
use
It's
an
like
HRTF
actually
is to
the sound
process a
moves
sound
around
source to make it
as you
appear as if
move
it's coming from one
in a
of
more
those 1,000
realistic
locations we
manner.
sampled. Unfortunately,
Oh,
processing has to be
okay,
done
that kind of
by
makes
human
sense
rather than
why they label it
so there's
3D sound, because
multiple
2D sound is
factors needed
flat
in every
audio,
sound source
it plays the
to
same old thing,
That's
but
all.
with
So
3D
that would
sound,
be like when you shoot a gun, it goes.
This computational complexity
That's just like a
is the
sound
determining
effect
factor
that
for our strategy.
plays.
And
Yeah.
Bite the bullet and
Whereas
design
maybe
and build a custom
3D
hardware
sound,
unit
you
for
know, it'd
3D
be like
audio.
when you shoot a gun,
Collectively, we're referring to the
it
hardware
won't be a
units
sound
and
effect that's
proprietary
playing. It'll be like
algorithms we run
sound
on it
in
as
an
Tempest
environment, and it'll
3D audio
behave
tech.
more realistically.
The meaning of
like
3D
it'll
audio
echo
and
off
technology
of a
should be pretty
surface if
obvious
you
here.
stood next to
As
something.
for Tempest,
apparently Xbox also has this feature, like the 3D
it
audio.
suggests a certain intensity of
The new one.
experience
They'll
and
both
also
be very
hints at
similar
your presence
consoles, I
within.
reckon.
We're calling the hardware unit that we built the Tempest engine.
They always have
It's based
been.
on AMD's GPU technology. We
Still,
modified a compute unit in
what I
such a
think
way
is,
as to
so
make it very close
by
to
having
SPU's
a surround sound headset, would that
Remember when
improve
we
it
said
or
that they
something
were
like that?
ideal for audio? So
Probably.
the Tempest engine has no caches, just like an SPU. All data access is via DMA, just like an SPU. Our target was that it would have more power than a CPU, thanks to the parallelism that a GPU can achieve, and that it would be more.
So they actually have a
efficient than
whole
GPU, thanks to
processing
the
unit for
architecture.
sound,
The goal being to
but
make
like
possible near 100%
improved for
integration
3D, so it's
of
going to be
CPU
like
vector units.
quite
Where we ended up is a unit with
powerful,
roughly
so-
the same SIMD power and bandwidth as all 8 Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined. If we were to use the same
I don't know what
algorithms
that
as
means.
PSVR, that's enough for something like
architecture, I don't know
5,000
what
sound sources.
SPU is.
But of course, we
Sound
want to use
processing
more
unit by
complex
the looks of
algorithms,
things.
and we don't need anything like that number
Maybe.
of sounds. It would have been wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as using Dolby Atmos peripherals,
Oh,
could have
good.
achieved our goals, but we wanted 3D audio for all.
It's using Dolby
not just
Atmos.
those
I don't think
licensed
any
audio
console has
sources.
that yet, surely.
Also, we wanted many hundreds of sound sources, not just the 32 that Atmos supports. And finally, we
SPU
wanted to be able to throw an overwhelming
You looking it up?
processing power at the problem. And it wasn't
Yeah, it
clear what
doesn't
any
seem to
peripheral
exist.
might have inside of it. In fact, with the Tempest engine, we've even got enough power that we can allocate some to the games, to the extent that games want to make use of convolution reverb and other algorithms that are either computationally expensive or need high bandwidth. But the primary
I can just
purpose
find
of the
one
Tempest
article
engine
about
remains
SPU from
3D audio.
2010, so I don't
Now,
think that's right.
3D audio is a major academic research topic.
SPU,
It's safe to say
SPU
that
communication
no one in the world
from
has all of the answers.
2007.
And a set of algorithms that has to be invented, tuned,
Yeah, I
and
think they just
implemented to
made
realize our
SPU
vision for
up.
3D audio is immense.
I think they
For
just made it
example,
up.
the use of HRTFs
doesn't
in
exist.
games is quite complex.
Props to this guy though, remembering to say all this. Like, I'm sure he's got his laptop there to like read what's in front of him,
but for high quality 3D game audio, we have to handle other possibilities.
He's probably a
the sound source might not be at one of the 1,000
from your
HRTF
film,
sample locations,
robot
so we have to
together.
blend HRTF
or
to the closest locations.
maybe they have teleprompters in front of
The
him.
sound source might be moving, which needs very special handling as that blend keeps
I don't know.
and that can cause
You'll just
phase
know what he's
artifacts
talking
in the resulting audio. Or the sound source might have a size to it, meaning it should feel as if it's coming from an area.
Just imagine being this guy, like all that information in your head, like
There's also whole categories of approaches to be handled.
knowing all that.
3D audio can be implemented using individual processing of 3D sound sources. But alternatively, ambisonics can be used for 3D audio. Ambisonics being somewhat like the spherical harmonics used in computer graphics. And finally, there's audio.
It's weird. It's weird seeing sound look like that.
TV speakers, or have a higher-end surround sound setup with 6 or more speakers.
Because I don't think it's been seen before for like 3D audio.
It's nice to have the computational resources of the
Oh no, I'm pretty sure that shit's been around on
that
PC
achieving our
for quite a
ultimate
while.
goals with 3D audio is going to be a multi-year, step-by-step process. Having said that, headphone audio implementation is largely complete at this time. It was a natural place for us.
I kind of hope if that's the case, surround sound headphones become cheaper or more widely accessible.
For TV speakers and stereo speakers, we're in the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet spot in front of the TV, then the sound can be made to feel as if it's coming from any direction, even behind.
Because it's been there for years, like years and years, but it's just seems very gimmicky.
Complex because the left ear can hear the right speaker.
Like, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not that necessary.
Surround sound up and running. We're now looking at increasing the size.
Like, it doesn't make a major impact on your play style.
To feel the 3D effect larger, and we're also working.
Because stereo is just as good, really.
Headphone audio is the current gold standard for 3D audio on PlayStation 5, but we're going to see what we can do to bring virtual surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such
Bournemouth
as
news article. Students from Bournemouth University to shoot film in town.
In development are extensively using these systems.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? It's a film place.
Style stereo audio and our new 3D audio. I listened with just an ordinary pair of over-the-ear headphones, and wow, I could feel a difference. 3D audio has that dimensional feel to it.
Wow, get this. Schools in Scotland and Wales close on Friday, but yet the UK schools aren't? Or something?
Have I entered the matrix? Does my brain believe I'm really there? Like I was talking about earlier when I
Oh no, they're saying that the UK government will shortly announce, in a short amount of time, they will announce that it's going to follow suit, apparently.
It wasn't mine. It was the default
basically.
The audio team analyzed the hundreds that they
the
measured.
world is just getting written off until about the end of April.
This shows a default HRTF on
Which sucks, because it's like, that's deadline
you can see that the
time.
general features are much the same.
Yeah,
the
well,
details
they'll
are
probably
quite
cancel it all, won't they?
With the default HRTF,
We were all saying, why don't we just get straight up 2-1s?
when I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a high
But then
level
there are people arguing, well,
which is
some of
the
us that are
sound
working
that
hard
uses
towards the
headphones
first. It's
in my
like,
HRTF.
well,
I
okay, can
occasionally
we not have a
even
choice?
think a sound is coming from the real world when it's actually coming from the game.
I don't know who that is. I'm going to answer it. Can you hear
Alright.
it?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Sufficiently far
It's
from
not
the
letting me
default
answer
HRTF.
it.
That's the red dot here. That they can toggle
I'm
between
clicking
PS4
answer and
style
it's
PS5 style
ignoring it.
audio and not sense much
There's
difference.
no picture.
I've had
either.
a few people describe the PlayStation 5's 3D audio as sounding like a bit
Oh, it's
better
Daniel.
stereo
Hang on,
audio.
let's get Daniel.
Presumably,
Cool.
they're the ones at the very
Can I add him?
edges of this diagram. Which means
This guy's saying it's a bit better stereo audio.
I'd
I'm
like
like,
everyone
huh.
to be able to
So it's
experience
not-
what I'm experiencing, but obviously it's not possible to measure the HRTF of every PlayStation user.
It's
That
not
means
that
HRTF
interesting then.
selection and synthesis
So it's
are
just
going
a
to be
fucking
developed
gimmick.
going forward as the Tempest technology matures. At PlayStation 5 launch, we'll be offering a choice of 5 HRTFs. There's a simple test where you pick the one that gives you the best locality. That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research topic. Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of your ear, and we'll choose a neural network to pick the closest HRTF in our library. Maybe you'll be sending us a video of your ears and your head, and we'll make a 3D model of them and synthesize the HRTF. Maybe you'll play an audio game to tune your
Wait,
HRTF.
hold on,
We'll
what?
be subtly changing as you play. And
Why
hone in
would people
the
be
HRTF
sending their
that gives you
heads,
the highest score, meaning that it matches you the best.
pictures of their heads? What?
This is a journey we'll all be taking together over the next few years. Ultimately, we're committing to a
You saying hello to me?
experience that
Yeah.
next level of
My
realism.
Discord's glitching.
Oh,
Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate
How do
a
we
bit
add
about
Daniel
our design
to
and
the call?
decision-making process today,
Do I
and
just
why
drag him in
PlayStation
here?
5 has the feature set that it does.
could try.
Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set. I'm hoping for the completely unexpected. Will it come from audio,
Add
ray
friend.
tracing,
Oh, there it is.
the capabilities of the SSD, or
Where's
something else?
Daniel?
I guess we'll find out soon enough. Thank you for your time today.
Fuck.
That was it.
I don't know. It cancelled the call as well. I don't know. I think this is it.
Gamers.
Gamer,
Alright, sick. It worked.
bro.
My Rainbow Six is half